भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयत्। नष्टाप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवतिनैष्टिकी मम ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपात्तमं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं देवतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरम्। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकम्। Shri Sam Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 21, Pudhu Maharaj Instructions, verse number, yesterday same verse, I will be picking up, I think 23, just read one time, 23 or 32, let's say 32. विनिर्दोतशेषमनो मलपुमान् असङ्गविज्ञानविशेषवीर्यवान् यदङ्घ्रिमूले कृतकेतनः पुनर्नासंस्मृतिम् क्लेशवहाम् प्रपद्यते। Translation by Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. When a devotee takes shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is completely cleansed of all misunderstanding or mental speculation, and he manifests renunciation. This is possible only when one is strengthened by practicing Bhakti Yoga. Once having taken shelter at the root of the lotus feet of the Lord, a devotee never comes back to this material existence which is full of threefold miseries. Repeat, when a devotee takes shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is completely cleansed of all misunderstanding or mental speculation, and he manifests renunciation. This is possible only when one is strengthened by practicing Bhakti Yoga. Once having taken shelter at the lotus feet, at the root of the lotus feet of the Lord, a devotee never comes back to this material existence, which is full of threefold miseries. Purport by Sri Prabhupada, as stated by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Siksastakam instruction by the chanting of the holy names of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Or by the process of hearing and chanting of the glories of the Lord, one's mind is gradually cleansed of all dirt due to our material association since time immemorial. We have accumulated heaps of dirty things in our mind. The total effect of this takes place when a living entity identifies himself with his body and is thus entrapped by the stringent laws of the material nature and put into a cycle of repeated birth and death under the false impression of the bodily identification. When one is strengthened by practicing Bhakti Yoga, his mind is cleansed of this misunderstanding and he is no longer interested in material existence in sense gratification. Bhakti or devotion service is characterized by Vairagya and Gnana. Gnana refers to understanding that one is not his body, and Vairagya means disinterest in sense gratification. These two primary principles of separation from material bondage can be realized on the strength of Bhakti Yoga. Thus, when a devotee is fixed in the loving service of the lotus feet of the Lord, he will never come back to this material existence after quitting his body, as confirmed Bhagavad Gita by the Lord. Jakta deham punat janmaneti mameti sorjana. In this verse, the word Vijnana is specifically important. Jnana, the knowledge of spiritual identity that one attains when he does not consider himself to be the body, is explained in Bhagavad Gita as Brahma Bhuta. The revival of spiritual realization. In the conditional state of material existence, one cannot be spiritually realized because he identifies himself materially. The understanding of the distinction between material existence and spiritual existence is called Gnana. After coming to the platform of Gnana or the Brahma Bhuta state, one ultimately comes to the devotion service, in which to completely In which he completely understands his own position and the position of Supreme Personality of Godhead. This understanding is explained here as a Vijnana Visesha. The Lord says, therefore, that knowledge of him is Vijnana science. In other words, when one is strengthened by scientific knowledge of Supreme Personality of Godhead, his position of liberation is guaranteed in Bhagavad Gita 9.2. The science of devotion service is described as Pratyaksha Bhagavan Dharmyam Susukam Kartam Avyam. Direct understanding of the principles of religion by realization. By practicing Bhakti Yoga, one can directly perceive his advancement in spiritual life. In other practices like Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Dhyana Yoga, one may not be confident about his progress, but in Bhakti Yoga, one can become directly aware of his progress in spiritual life. Just as a person who eats can understand that his hunger is satisfied. Our false appetite for enjoyment and lordship of the material world is due to the prominence of the passion and ignorance by Bhakti Yoga. These two qualities are diminished. And one becomes situated in the mode of goodness, gradually surpassing the mode of goodness, and one is situated in pure goodness, which is not contaminated by natural qualities. And thus situated as the devotee is no longer has any doubts, he knows that he will not come back to this material world. चेतो दर्पणमार्जनं भवमहादावाग्निर्वापणम् श्रियकैरवचन्द्रिका वितरणं विद्यावधू जीवनम् आनन्दाम्बुदिवर्धनं प्रतिपदं पूर्णामृतस्वादनं सर्वात्मा स्नपनं परं विजेते श्रीकृष्णसङ्कीर्तनम् नाम्नामकारि बहुधा निज सर्वशक्ति तत्रार्पिता नियमिता स्मरणेन काल एतादृशी तव कृपा भगवन् ममापि दुर्दैवमीदृशी हा जनिनानुरागः तृणादपि सुनिचेनतरोरिव सहिष्णुना अमानिना मानदेन कीर्तनीय सदा हरि न धनं न जनं न सुन्दरीं कवितां वा जगदीश कामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवताद्भक्तिरहैतुकी त्वयि ऐनन्दतनुज किङ्करं पतितं मां विषमे भवाम्बुधौ कृपया तव पादपङ्कजस्थितधूलिसदृशं विचिन्तय नयनं गलदश्रुधारया वदनं गद्गदहृदया गिरा पुलकैर्निचितं वपु कला तव नाम ग्रहणेन भविष्यति युगायितं निमेषेण चक्षुषा प्रामृषायितं शून्यायितं जगत्सर्वं गोविन्दविरहेण मे अश्लेषवापादरतां पिनस्तु मां नदर्शनां मर्महतां करोतु वा यथा तथा वा विदधातु लम्पटो मत्प्राणनादस्तु स एव नापरः मत्प्राणनादस्तु स एव नापरः मत्प्राणनादस्तु स एव नापरः. Glory to Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of a conditioned life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan moment is the prime benediction for the humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss. It enables us fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. Why should we why should we hear this Siksastakam? Why should we chant? Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains in Chaitanya Charitamrita. प्रभुर शिक्षाष्टक श्लोक यही पदे सुने कृष्ण प्रेम भक्ति तारे बाड़े दिने दिने. If anyone recites or hears these 8 verses of instruction by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his ecstatic love and devotion for Krishna increases day by day. So it's very important that we chant Siksastakam before chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So it develops our love for Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. Second verse. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings. Thus, you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. These are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of your kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Third verse. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Fourth verse. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotion service, birth after birth. Verse number 5. O Sana Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. At somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. Number 6. O my Lord, when will my eyes decorated with tears of love flowing constantly? When can I chant the holy name? When will my voice choked up? And when will the tears, when will the hairs on my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? Number 7. Oh Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all weakened in the world of in your absence. Number 8. I have no one but Krishna as my Lord. He shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. So I'm recording this, so that's why I have to begin with beginning. But so we'll just briefly discuss yesterday's thing and then we'll continue. These 8 Siksastakam verses demonstrate three principles, as discussed yesterday: Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. The first verse teaches about the process of congregation chanting of the holy name. Second verse is talking about Nam Nama Kari Bahuda Nija Sarvasakti. Unfortunate reluctance of the conditioned souls to take up this best process of chanting. And third verse is talking about what mode we should have, what consciousness for chanting. Third, about the proper means for chanting the holy name. Now, the fourth one is talking about Nadanam Najanam, renunciation and deception and all adverse desires. And the fifth verse is talking about Kinkaram, Ananda Kinkaram. Fifth verse about the Jiva's original spiritual identity. And sixth one is about the feeling the good fortune of coming nearer to the Lord. So the Nayanam Galada Srudharaya, Vadanam Gadgada Hridaya, that verse. And the seventh verse is talking about highly elevated mood of separation. Sleshavam Padaratam, Yugayitam Nimeshan verse. And then the eighth one is talking about how one gets established in the absolute goal of necessity. This is attaining Krishna Prema. In another way to look at is the Sambandha Abhideya Prajna. These 8 verses principally talking about Abhideya, practice of devotion service, how to do. And then, but further elaborately, first 5 verses are describing, imparting the Sambandha Gnan, the relationship between the living entity and the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna and various rasas. And then the remaining 3 verses are describing Prayojana, what result we'll get of Krishna Prema. And also in detail, the first 5 verses are talking about Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, how a practitioner should conduct himself, how to practice. And then gradually we'll come to the next 2 verses talking about from Nainam Galadas to Dharaya to the Bhava Bhakti, ecstatic devotion service in practice. First one, Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, and then devotion service in ecstasy, Bhava Bhakti. And then the last verse is talking about sixth, that is sixth, eight, yeah, especially seventh and eighth deal with Prema Bhakti. The last verse and the last eighth verse is talking about Prema, the devotional service in Prema. So, in this way, we can understand this essence of this Siksastakam. Now, we'll go more, delve into the chanting of the holy name. The first verse, Cheto Darpana Marjanam itself, that first verse itself is elaborately described by Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur Goswami Prabhupada in their Samodhana Bhashya. नाम संकीर्तन ऐते सर्वार्थ नाशन सर्व सुबोधय कृष्ण प्रेमेर उल्लास संकीर्तन ऐते पाप संसार नाशन चित्त शुद्धि सर्व भक्ति साधना उद्गम कृष्ण प्रेमोद्गम प्रेमामृत आस्वादन कृष्ण प्राप्ति शिवामृत समुदय Vajjana. By the performance of Sri Krishna Sankirtan, all kinds of anarthas are destroyed and the heart becomes purified. The reactions to many lifetimes of sinful activities are eradicated, and along with them, material existence, consisting of repeated birth and death, which is a byproduct of those sins. All kinds of benedictions arise from Sri Krishna Sankirtan. All varieties of devotions or we practice the sadhanas giving rise to Prema Bhakti are instigated by it. Krishna Prema arises and one begins to taste the nectar of Krishna Prema. Sri Krishna is then obtained. Finally, one obtains spotless purity in thoroughly cooled and thoroughly thoroughly cooled and refreshed by complete immersion in the nectar of ocean of service to Sri Krishna. In this way, we can understand So, adopting the sentiment and golden luster of limbs of Srimati Radhika, Sri Sachinandan Gaur Hari, the supreme deliverer of the fallen conditioned souls of Kali Yuga, would chant the holy name of the uh, uh, have been called upon. Looks like some class one. Give me a minute. 1 minute. Hold on. Yeah, by the potency of his kirtan, the fallen conditioned souls of Kali would chant the holy name of Krishna. Sri Krishna, absorbed in deep emotional state, by the potency of his kirtan, not only the sinful and materially afflicted people of Kali Yuga were delivered, but the birds, bees, insects, and worms as well. While describing the glories of the holy name, he spoke as follows: the chanting of the holy name of Sri Krishna thoroughly cleanses the mirror of the heart. It very easily extinguishes the blazing forest fire of the material existence and dissipates once for and for all threefold miseries, Adhyatmika and Adi Bhautika and Adi Devika. As the moon by its uh, nectarian soothing and cooling rays causes the white lotus to bloom, the holy name causes of the white lotus of Prema Bhakti to bloom, which is the highest benediction of the Jiva souls. May there be all victory. Uh, May there be all be victory for the chanting of the holy name of Sri Krishna, which is embodiment of past tense of bhakti. Unalloyed devotion, Visuddha Bhakti, is the embodiment of the highest knowledge, and it is like a new wife, Vadhu. Sri Krishna Sankirtana is the life of transcendental knowledge in the form of bhakti. May there be all victory again and again for chanting the holy name of Sri Krishna, which manifests the eternal position, constitution form of the living entities. Sri Krishna Sankirtan expands the unfathomable, unlimited ocean of transcendental bliss. May there be all victory for chanting the holy name of Sri Krishna, which is an inundation of transcendental bliss. Sri Krishna Sankirtan enables one to taste ever increasingly fresh nectar at every step. May there be all victory again and again for chanting the holy name of the Sri Krishna, which bestows Krishna Prema. The holy name forever bathes and immerses the chanter in Krishna Prema. The holy name forever bathes and immerses the chanter in Krishna Prema. May there be all victory again and again for chanting the holy name of Sri Krishna, which is the storehouse of love of Godhead. So here the Sankirtan of how it helps to cleanses all the anarthas are being destroyed and glorified. In Srimad Bhagavatam, we see that Nama Sankirtan Vasta Sarvapama Pranasam Pranamo Dukkha Samutam Namani Harim Param. By simply chanting the glories, chanting the holy name of the Lord, it can purify all the simple activities with attentiveness. So one must chant in the humble state of mind, then it can remove all the simple activities from past lives, everything to zero basically. So, and we see that there are 81 ways in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, this has been explained. 81 ways of devotion service is there. We think that everybody is chanting, everybody is hearing, it's the same thing. I can hear from anybody, I can uh, read or but it's not the same. There are different modes people are chanting, people are doing kirtan, so which is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. कर्म निरहारम उद्दिश्य परस्मिन् वा तदर्पणम यजेद यस्तव्यम इति वा पृथक् भावश्च सात्विका. When a devotee worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead and offers the result of his activities in order to free himself from the inabilities of fruitive activities, his devotion is in the mode of goodness. The Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Sudras, along with the Brahmacharis, purport of Prabhupada, this verse 3:29-10 in Srimad Bhagavatam. Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Sudras, along with the Brahmacharis, Grihasthas, Vanaprasthas, Sannyasis are the members of the 8 divisions of Varna and Ashram. They have their respective duties to perform for the satisfaction of Supreme Personality of Godhead. When such activities are performed, the results are offered to the Supreme Lord. They are called Karmarpanam, because most of them are in this Karmadikari stage. No one is in the. It's very difficult to come to Bhakti Adhikari stage. Some are in Jnana Adhikari stage, but Bhakti Adhikari stage can only obtain by the mercy of the spiritual master. There is no other way about it. Duties performed for the satisfaction of Lord. If there is any impurity or fault, it is atoned by the this offering process. But if this offering process is in the mode of goodness rather than in pure devotion, then the interest is different. The four ashramas and the four varnas act for some benefit in accordance with their personal interests. Therefore, such activities are in the mode of goodness. They cannot be counted in the category of pure devotion. Pure devotion service, as described by Rupa Goswami, is free from all material desires. Anya vilashita sunyam jnana karmadhanavlutam anukullen Krishna bhakti. There can be no excuse for personal or material interest. Devotional activities should be transcendental to fruitive activities and empiric philosophical speculation. Pure devotion service is transcendental to all material qualities. Now, this paragraph is very important. This is last. Devotion service in the mode of ignorance, passion, and goodness can be divided into 81 categories. There are different devotional activities such as hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping, offering prayers, rendering service, surrendering everything, and each of them can be divided into three qualitative categories. There is a hearing in the mode of passion, in the mode of ignorance, and in the mode of goodness. Similarly, there is chanting in the mode of ignorance, passion, and goodness, etc. 3 multiplied by 9 equal to 27, and when again multiplied by 3, it becomes 81. One has to transcend all such mixed materialistic devotion service in order to reach the standard of pure devotion service. So that's why we have to understand this. This is Lord Brahma is speaking. Madguna smriti matrena mai sarva guhase manogati ravichinna yata gangam baso ambudau. Lakshanam bhakti yogasya nirgunasya udahranam mahaituki avyavahita ya bhakti purushottame. The manifestation of unadulterated devotion service is exhibited when one's mind is at once attracted to hearing the transcendental name and qualities of Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is residing in everyone's heart, just as the water of the Ganga flow naturally down towards the ocean. Such devotion ecstasy, uninterrupted by any material condition, flows towards the Supreme Lord. So, the first basic principle of unadulterated true devotion service is love of Godhead. Madgata Sruti Matrena means just after hearing about the transcendental qualities of Supreme Personality of Godhead, these qualities. Just after hearing, these qualities are called nirguna. Supreme Lord is uncontaminated by the mode of material nature, therefore he is attracted to the pure devotee. There is no need to practice meditation to attain such attraction. Pure devotee is already in the transcendental stage, and the affinity between him and the Supreme Personality Godhead is natural, just like the gopis and cohort boys, all of them in Vrindavan has natural attraction. That's why they are in the Raganoga Bhakti. Is compared to Ganga water flowing towards the sea. Ahaituki means without any reason. Pure devotee does not render loving devotion service for any cause or for any benefit, material or spiritual. This is the first symptom of unalloyed devotion. So we can understand. We'll further now go back to the this Sankirtan. So first Cheto Darpana Marjanam, then we'll go further. The Cheto Darpana Marjanam, the chanting of the holy name Sri Krishna cleanses the dust from the mirror of the heart of the living entity. The mirror of the heart of the Baddha Jiva is thoroughly covered with the dust of material contamination. This material contamination is of three types. Anya Vilasha, the living entity who has become averse to the Lord, is filled with the desire separate from the interest of the Lord. 2. Enjoyment of the fruits of the worldly activities. 3. Renunciation which is not undertaken for the pleasure of the Lord. The chanting of the holy name of Sri Krishna is most effective instrument for cleansing the dust from the mirror of the heart of the jiva. As long as the depth of the material contamination is present, the pure spiritual form of the living entity is not reflected in the mirror of his heart. Therefore, the three kinds of contamination mentioned above are all forms of decay, kaita, which obscure the true vision of the self. They are obstacles which completely cover the heart of the jiva. By chanting of the holy name of Sri Krishna, all these obstacles are removed. Finally, when the mirror of the heart is cleansed by complete chanting of the holy name, one's pure spiritual form is reflected in the mirror of the heart, and one understands I am the servant of Lord Krishna. Next, Bhava Mahadavag Nirvapanam extinguishes the blazing forest fire of material existence. Externally, this material world appears very beautiful, charming, and pleasing, but in reality, it is just like blazing fire within a forest. This material world is blazing with the innumerable suffering which comes under three headings. Adi Atmika, misery is arising from the body and mind. Adi Daivika, misery is arising from the demigods and material nature. Adi Bhautika, misery is arising from the other living entities. As the blazing fire thoroughly destroys all the trees and animals of the forest fire of material existence in the shape of repeated birth and death constantly burns the living entities who are averse to Sri Krishna, but which But when one takes up the chanting of the holy name of Sri Krishna under the expert guidance of the qualified Guru and Vaishnavas, then even while residing in this material world, one becomes competent to extinguish the blazing fire of material existence. This is due to one's adopting an attitude which is favorably disposed towards Lord Sri Krishna. By Sri Krishna Nama Sankirtan, all these miseries are driven away. Vande Sri Gurum Devtarinam परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्यईश्वरम् वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृन्द। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। श्रीचैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकम्। रूप गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय, प्रभुपाद की जय, गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। We are studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 21, Prithu Maharaj Instructions, verse number 23. We're covering, which were 32. Verse number 32 from Canto 4, Chapter 21, Prithu Maharaj Instructions. We'll directly jump into the Siksastakam. Cheto-darpanam bhava mahadhavagni nirvapanam Sreya Chandrika Vitaranam Vidya Vadu Jivanam Anandam Vadivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamrutaswadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijete Sri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bauda Nija Sarva Shakti Tatrarpita Niyamita Smaranena Kala Etadrasi Tava Krupa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaiva Janinanuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Taroriva Sahishtuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Va Jagadisa Kamayi Mama Janmani Janmani Isware Bhavatat Bhakti Rahaitu Kitwai Ainanda Tanujatin Karam Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Budau Krupaya Tavapada Pankajastitaduli Sadrisam Vichintaya Nayanam Galadasrudharaya Vadam Gadgadarudaya Gira Pulakai Nijitam Vapu Kada Tavanam Agranena Bhavishyati Yugayitam Nimeshena Chakshusha Pravrushayitam Sunyayitam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahename Aslishavam Padaratam Pinastu Mam Adarsanam Marmahatam Karotuva Yata Tadavatu Vidadatu Lampato Matprananadastu Sayevanapraha Matprananadastu Sayevanapraha Matprananadastu Sayevanapraha. So, Cheto Darpanam Arjanam Bhava Mahadavag Nirvapanam Sriya Kairav Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandambudi Vardhanam Pratipadam Purnamruta Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. So, first we are discussing about the Cheto Darpanam Arjanam. The holy name cleanses the mirror of the heart. The contamination that cover the mirror of consciousness is swept away by chanting the holy name. The holy name is the embodiment of the profound spiritual bliss. Prabhu Goswami writes in the 7th stanza, the Namastaka prayers, Sudarsita Jana Arti Rasaye Brahmya Chitagna Sukha Swarupine Nama Gokula Mahotsav Vayate Krishna Purna Vapuse Namo Namaha. O holy name, O Lord Krishna, you dissipate the sufferings, offenses against the holy name of your surrendered devotees. You possess the transcendental form of ecstatic beauty and bliss, and you appear as a figure of sublime joy for the residents of Gokula. You are therefore fully a spiritual entity of the same spiritual nature as the Vaikuntha planets. I offer my repeated obeisances unto you. Now this Sankirtan has been described. There are Japa, and Kirtan and Sankirtan we discussed. Now let's look at the Sankirtan has 7 planes. First one. Sankirtan cleanses the heart. The chanting of the Lord Krishna's holy name acts as purifying agent upon the mirror of living entities, contaminated hearts. The The heart of the conditioned soul is completely covered over by three impurities: the desire to lord it over matter, the godless attitude of being the sole enjoyer, and of the renouncer of the fruits of one's action and atheism. These three treacherous contaminations form a sheath that covers the mirror of consciousness, causing one to reject his true nature as a jiva. Krishna's holy name alone frees the consciousness of these impurities by constantly chanting and thus taking complete shelter of the holy name. The jiva gradually perceives the reflection of his original form as a servant of Lord Krishna in the mirror of consciousness. Sankirtana extinguishes the fire of material existence. So, this material existence appears to be pleasurable and sweet, but in reality, it is like a fire in the depths of the forest. Such fire can reduce entire forest to ashes. The faithless non-devotee must constantly tolerate the excruciating burning pain of the flaming forest fire of material existence. But when Lord Krishna's holy name is congregationally chanted in full perfection, the devotees, even though may dwell in the material world, are never scorched by these flames. Second flame. Sankirtan spreads the rays of the benediction moon. Lord Krishna's holy name imparts the supreme goodness and munificence. Sreya means benediction. Kaitava, white lilies. Chandrika, moon rays or white luminescence. Just as the rising moon illuminates and reveals the whiteness of the white water lily, similarly the chanting of Krishna holy name reveals the greatest benediction for the entire universe. Human society cannot benefit from material diseases for sense enjoyment, fruitive work, or speculative knowledge. Chanting Krishna's name blesses all with greatest prosperity. Third flame. Sankirtan is the life of all transcendental knowledge. The Mundaka Upanishad notes two types of knowledge or education: material knowledge and transcendental knowledge. Indirectly, the chanting of Lord Krishna's holy name is the cause and sustainer of even material knowledge, but primarily it is the life and soul of all transcendental knowledge. Chanting induces the jiva to break free from the shackles of false ego and prestige arising from material education and leads him to understand his eternal relationship with the Lord Krishna. The ultimate purpose of transcendental knowledge is to simply chant Krishna's holy name. Third flame. Sankirtan expands the ocean of transcendental bliss. The chanting of the holy name expands the ocean of transcendental bliss. A limited expanse of water cannot be described as an ocean. Therefore, unlimited bliss is being compared to boundless ocean. Chanting Krishna's name causes one to release the sweet nectar of that ocean fully at every step. Because this transcendental experience is unfettered by imperfections, one can always release full spiritual nectar from chanting of Krishna's names. Now, the fourth flame. Sankirtan awards the cooling shelter of Lord Krishna's lotus feet. The form and features of the transcendence radiate a tender, cooling sheen that is perceivable through the chanting of Krishna's name, Krishna's holy name. In the mundane realm, the body, mind, above them, the soul, not only become purified by chanting the holy name, but they too gradually and inevitably are touched by the cooling tenderness of the spiritual realm. The subtle and gross contaminations of the material conception of life and the acceptance of false designations have devoured a spirit soul. But all these afflictions can be ended by chanting the holy name. When the soul finds release from material designations, he has become eager to reach Lord Krishna. He thus engages in devotion service, taking shelter in the cooling shade of the Lord's lotus feet. Next, Sankirtan completes all other processes of bhakti. In Bhakti Sandarbha 273 and in the Krishna Sandarbha of the 7th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, Jiva Goswami writes, Ata eva yadya apanaya bhakti kalau kartavya tada kirtanakya bhakti samyogi aneva. Which means, although it is required even in Kali Yuga to practice all other 8 limbs of devotion service, they must be performed in conjunction with the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. This we quoted in one of Sunday Feast class. So now one must have, as this Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained, that this is Lord Brahma himself has studied the Vedic literatures. Then only he was able to actually create the material manifestation. So to understand this transcendental knowledge, one must thoroughly study. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is quoting this in the beginning of this, explaining Siksastakam, how much one must inquisitively and scrutinizingly study. Bhagavan Brahma Karsnena Trir Anvikshya Manishaya Tad Adyavasayat Kutasto Radiratmana Yato Bhavet. The great personality Brahma, with great attention and concentration of the mind, studied the Vedas 3 times. And after scrutinizingly examining them, he ascertained that attraction by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna is the highest perfection of religion. Purport. So Sukadeva Goswami is referring to the highest Vedic authority, Lord Brahma, who is the qualitative incarnation of Godhead. The Vedas were taught to Brahmaji in the beginning of material creation. Although Brahmaji was to hear Vedic instruction directly from personality Godhead, in order to satisfy the inquisitiveness of all prospective students of Vedas, Brahmaji, just like a scholar, studied the Vedas 3 times, as generally done by all scholars. He studied with great attention, concentrating on the purpose of the Vedas. After scrutinizing and examining the whole process, he ascertained that becoming a pure, unalloyed devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the topmost perfection of all religious principles. And this is the last instruction of Bhagavad Gita directly presented by the personality of Godhead. The Vedic conclusion is thus accepted by all acharyas. Those who are against this conclusion are only Veda Vada Rata Pagda. They are simply attracted by the allurements. And one must hear. One must have, first of all, Shastriya Shraddha, Shastra Avadharanamayi. One must study and hear regularly, as Dhruva Maharaj is mentioning in his prayers. Bhaktim Muhu Pravatam Tvaime Prasango Bhuyad Ananta Mahatam Amalasayanam Enam Jasa Ulbanam Guruvyasanam Bhavadbim Nesye Bhagavat Guna Katam Ratapana Dhruva Maharaj continued, "Oh, unlimited Lord, kindly bless me so that I may associate with great devotees who engage in your transcendental loving service. Constantly, as the waves of a river constantly flow, such transcendental devotees are completely situated in uncontaminated state of life. By the process of devotion service, I shall surely be able to cross the nascent ocean of material existence, which is filled with waves of blazing fire-like dangers. It will be very easy for me, for I am becoming mad to hear about your transcendental qualities and pastimes, which are eternally existence." The significant point in Dhruva Maharaj's statement is that he wanted the association of pure devotees. Transcendental devotion service cannot be complete and cannot be realizable without the association of devotees. You have therefore established the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Anyone who is trying to be aloof from this Krishna Consciousness Society and yet engage in Krishna Consciousness is living in a great hallucination. But this is not possible. From this statement by Dhruva Maharaj, it is clear that unless one is associated with devotees, his devotion service does not mature, it does not become distinct from material activities. And then Prabhupada goes, Satam Prasangat Mama Virya Samvido Bhavante Harat Karna Rasayana Joshanat Apavarga Vartamana Shraddha Bhakti Ratir Anukramishyati. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also quoting in Madhya Leela, after explaining about sadhana bhakti, raganuga bhakti, prema bhakti, then Mahaprabhu is describing the essence. Bhakti vino kona sadhana dite nare phala, sabha phala deya bhakti swatantra prabhala. The other process cannot yield results. That means karma, jnana, without bhakti. Results unless they are associated with devotion service. Devotion service, however, is so strong and independent that it can give one all the desired results. Ajagala stana nyaya anya sadhana ataiva hari bhaje buddhiman jana. With the exception of devotion service, all the methods of self-realization are like the nipples on the neck of a goat. You can't get the milk from the nipples of neck of a goat. It is like that. You may try karma, jnana and all without bhakti, without devotion service, mixed with that, there is no results. Therefore, an intelligent person adopts only devotion service, gives up all other paths of self-realization. Without devotion service, other methods for self-realization and spiritual life are useless. Other methods cannot produce good results at any time, and therefore they are compared to the nipples on the neck of a goat. These nipples cannot produce milk. Although it may appear that they can, an unintelligent person cannot understand that only devotion service can elevate one to transcendental position. And that's why we can understand how important it is to hear and study under the direction of the spiritual master. So further in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned where, hold on. Yeah. In Chaitanya Bhagavat, it is mentioned also. Agna hi laiveka Krishnera Sarana Savadane. Sunibeka Mahanta Vachana. Agna hi laveka Krishnera Sarana Savadane. Sunibeka Mahanta Vachana. Thinking of oneself a fool, one should surrender to Krishna and carefully listen to the words of the advanced devotees. That's why one must need association of devotees to hear, to understand this transcendental literature. Otherwise, there is no possibility to understand this literatures at all. Again and again, this has been mentioned throughout Chaitanya Charitamrita, throughout Srimad Bhagavatam. साधु संग कृष्ण भक्ते श्रद्धा यदि हया भक्ति बल प्रेम हया samsara yaya kshaya. By associating with the devotee, one awakens his faith in devotional service to Krishna. Because of devotional service, one's dormant love for Krishna awakens. Thus, one's material condition existence comes to an end. So now we'll look at further from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's commentary as we are reading from Bhajana, from Sambodhana Bhashya. The holy name reveals the soul's eternal relationship with Krishna. When does a person having attained the level of pure devotion acquire his pure spiritual identity? Lord Chaitanya answered this question by saying, Vidya Vadu Jivanam, the life of all transcendental knowledge. The Supreme Lord's Shakti has two aspects, Vidya, knowledge, and Avidya, ignorance. Yoga Maya, the Swarup Shakti, is the Lord's internal spiritual potency. This potency is called Vidya, whereas Mahamaya, his external energy, is Avidya. It is the latter that creates the material universe and covers the soul's Swarupa. When by sincerely following the process of hearing and chanting, the first rays of pure devotion finally appear on the horizon of sadhaka's heart, then the Bhakti Devi eradicates of all unwanted miseries detrimental to the Lord's service and eclipses the avidya potency. Only when we submit to the spiritual master this will happen. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. By suffusing the soul with spiritual knowledge, Bhakti Devi destroys both the gross and subtle coverings of the soul. Simultaneously, the Jiva's original Sarupa spiritual form becomes manifest, so that he acquires the form of a gopi, for example, if his pure devotion propensities are stepped in the conjugal mood. Thus, it stands proven that Krishna's holy name is the life and soul of a transcendental knowledge. Another place also is mentioned. This Vidya Vadu Jivanam is like a newly wedded wife. How careful and how sincerely she will serve. She is very much alert. In the same way, so this devotion service should be done in that mood, very carefully and alert, and submit to the spiritual master and follow his instructions. Swarup Shakti is therefore often said to be Krishna's wife. When the gross and subtle material bodies of the jiva are completely destroyed, the infinitesimal soul regains its original pristine purity. Although the jiva is anu or minutely small, his capacity for spiritual happiness is not minute. To remove any doubt about this fact, Lord Chaitanya adds, Anandambuja Vardhanam, it is ever increasing ocean of bliss. The holy name of the Lord through the Hladini potency endlessly expands natural bliss inherent in the soul. Thus his happiness increases by leaps and bounds, fixing the soul eternally in one of the spiritual mellows of Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya and Madhurya. When this established in his eternal spiritual mellow, he continues to release the limitless nectar at every step of the exchange of loving emotions in his transcendental relationship with the Supreme Lord. Lord Krishna's enchanting beauty, his divine qualities, his sublime pastimes are eternal, ever fresh in ecstasy. Inebriated with divine prema, the pure jiva continuously drinks this ecstatic nectar. Yet still the Lord's captivating beauty is forever new. Pure love is never selfish. Now, the one final question may arise: isn't the pursuit of happiness self-motivated and hence contrary to the principles of pure devotion service? If so, how can Jiva's happiness be called unalloyed and transcendental? As answer, Lord Chaitanya uses the expression Sarvatma Snapanam. The bliss of Krishna consciousness is completely pure, being wholly free of any desire for self-satisfaction. Specifically, this means that in the natural course of pure devotion service, the devotee attains a form of a maid servant of Srimati Radharani, who embodies the zenith of Mahabhava or divine ecstasy. In her service, the devotee participates in conjugal pastime with the Lord and experiences unlimited bliss. This sublime mood of service is therefore untainted even by the slightest tinge of lust or self-indulgent craving. Sarvatma Snapanam also confirms that in that state of perfect bliss, neither the contamination of Sayujya Mukti, becoming one with the Lord's impersonal aspect, nor the impurity of self-gratification can divert the devotee from his fixed position in pure Krishna consciousness. May the chanting of the holy name of Krishna be ever victorious, for it is adorned with 7 transcendental qualities. It is the form of eternity, knowledge and highest bliss, stepped in the wonderful, variegated, amorous pastimes of Sri Radha and Krishna. Simply by chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna, one can be freed from all undesirable habits. This is the means of awakening all good fortune and initiating the flow of waves of love for Krishna. By performing congregation chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can destroy sinful condition of the material existence, purify the unclean heart, and awaken all varieties of devotion service. The result of chanting is that one awakens his love for Krishna and tastes transcendental bliss. Ultimately, one attains the association of Krishna and engages in his devotion service as if immersing himself in a great ocean of love. So, as it is this is described here, of Cheto Darpanamarjanam Bhava Mahadavag Nirvapanam Sriya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidya Vadu Jivanam Anandambudi Vardhanam Pratipadam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarmatma Sanapanam Param Vijete Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. In this case, one must have first of all Shastriya Shraddha. Shastra Shraddha. Shraddha Siddhe Sudruda Nischay. Vishwas Sudruda Nischay. One must have strong faith on the Shastra. Otherwise, there is no possibility of understanding any transcendental literature. Acharya Shraddha, Shastra Shraddha. Our Laukika Shraddha is material. You will hear from everybody else, you will read all kinds of things, but not from Guru, not from Sri Prabhupada, not from previous Acharyas, not in the association of devotees. Then that's not going to help. One must thoroughly understand the Siddhantas or principles or tattvas of Jiva Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, Rasa Tattva, Maya Tattva, Bhakti Tattva. All these things one must understand. Then you will be able to follow this process of Cheto Darpana Marjanam as it is explained here by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. The phrase again Marjanam has been explained. Marjanam is like we sing Sri Guru Charanar in the morning. Sri Vigrahara Dhamanityanana Srungara Tanman Dhiramajjanado. Srungara Tanman Mandiramajjanado. That means cleansing the temple of the Lord. The Guru, spiritual master, is worshipping the Lord and cleansing the temple of the Lord as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has done. Gundicha Marjan, that Marjanam. Marjanam means cleansing this mirror, cleansing the heart, mind, intelligence, so the senses, everything, gross and subtle and everything. That is what is Marjanam means. Very, very important. That's why one must engage in this Marjanam cleansing business by engaging in physical service, engaging in Sravanam, the way one must hear. Prabhupada quotes, I think, in canto, second chapter, 32 or 36 verse, where he mentions that one must scrutinizingly read and understand these transcendental subject matters, not like a parrot reading. Then it's not going to help. So that's what time is it? 6:35. Let's read further. The Cheto Darpanam Arjanam we discussed. Bhava Mahadavag Nirvapanam extinguishes the blazing forest fire of material existence. Eternally in this material world appears very beautiful, charming, pleasing, but in reality it is just like a blazing fire within the forest. This material world is blazing the innumerable suffering which comes under three headings: Adi Atmika, Adi Daivika, and Adi Bhautika. Miseries arising from other living entities, Adi Bhautika. Adi Daivika, miseries arising from demigods of material nature like snow, cold, or hurricane, earthquakes, whatnot. And misery is arising from our own body and mind, Adhyatmika. As the blazing fire thoroughly destroys all the trees and animals of the forest of fire of material existence in the shape of repeated birth and death constantly burns the living entities or averse to Sri Krishna. But when one takes up the chanting of the holy name of Sri Krishna under the expert guidance, see that, expert guidance of a qualified Guru and Vaishnavas, always Prabhupada is bona fide spiritual master. Not any spiritual master. These days everybody is Guru. So that's why it has to be bona fide. So corroborated by Shastra and Sadhu and so others. What kind of Palena Parichyate? We have to look at the results. What kind of transformation he himself is transformed. He is able to have communication with the previous Acharya and the Supreme Lord, and he is able to transform others. Then we can understand he is a Acharya. Then even while residing in this material world, one becomes competent to extinguish the blazing fire of material existence. This is due to one's adopting an attitude which is favorably disposed toward Krishna. Sri Krishna Nam Sankirtan. All these miseries are driven away. But then one may question, what is Sankirtan? Everybody chanting. Everybody, oh Prabhu, this person sings very nice. Or this girl sings very nice. We may think like that when we come to temple or when we see some guys on YouTube. But there is a big difference, there is a vast difference. One may have material desires in the heart. That's why the Sankirtan is explained in the by Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur in this Bhajan Rahasya and Samodhan Bhashya. That Sankirtan is not in the beginning where we think that Sravanam and Kirtanam. It has to be come to the Nishtha stage. Adho Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Sangho, Tata Bhajana Kriya. Then the fourth stage is Sankirtan. Not in the beginning, because they may have the material desires. Unless one is coming to the Nishtha stage, then when he performs Sankirtan, then that is what real Sankirtan is. Completely all the senses, body, mind, intelligence, everything is fully invested in the holy name of the Lord, without any other desires, motives, no other thing. Somebody wants, sometimes we see that they want to jump. When Sunday feast program is there, they say, I want to sing, I want to sing. Can you sing in your home without having anybody, single person, in your own room? Can you cry and can you chant, can you dance? That most of the times you can do that, which means there is something else going on. It is not a pure love and desire. So that's why it is not every kirtan is not the same. The Prabhupada's kirtan you hear and then it's different. It is transcendental because he is always like that. Whenever he sings before the class, he is completely in a transcendental sphere. We can feel it. So that is what the real Sankirtan means. One must come to this Nishtha stage, then that is what real Sankirtan means. Otherwise, this Kirtan, as we explained, 81 ways of devotion service. Because of mode of ignorance, passion, goodness, and one must come to this Suddha Sattva. That is what the real Kirtan means. That's why you can't hear from anybody and everybody. We think it is the same, but it is not the same. The result will be different. So otherwise we may chant, we may do so many things, but transformation is not happening. We will stay where we are. Not much moves. Life will go on. So that is not what we want. Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. With this I will stop. Complete chanting of the holy name of Sri Krishna diffuses the radiance of supreme auspiciousness. The word Shreya means auspiciousness. Kaitava means white lilies, Kumuda. And Chandrika means the rays of moon. Just as the soothing rays of the rising moon cause the white lilies to bloom and thus enhances their whiteness, the chanting of the holy name of Sri Krishna expands the good fortune of all living entities. Good fortune cannot be had by separate desires, anya vilas, karma or gnana, but the chanting of holy name of Sri Krishna promotes the highest welfare of the jiva. And that is what is this Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. When we look at also, there is another way it is explained. The Cheto Darpanam, second perfection, Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. The blazing fire of material existence is extinguished. Nata Param Karma Nibandha Kritanam Mumukshatam Tirtha Padanu Kirtana Nayat Punah Karma Susajjate Mano Rajastamo Byam Kaililam Tato Anyata. Therefore, one who desires freedom from material bondage should adopt the process of chanting and glorifying the name, form, pastimes, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, at whose feet all the holy places stand. One cannot derive the proper benefit from other methods such as pious atonement, speculative knowledge, meditation, mystic yoga, because even after following such method, one takes to fruitive activities again, unable to control his mind, which is contaminated by the base qualities of nature, namely passion and ignorance. Then the third perfection, Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. Yeah, with this we will stop. So the moonlight opens the white lotus of good fortune. As quoted from Skanda Puran, Haribhakta Vilas 11.234. Maduram Maduram Etan Mangalam Mangalanam Sakala Nigam Bali Satpalam Chit Swarupam Sakrudavi Parigitam Shraddaya Helayava Bruguvara Nara Matram Tarayet Krishna Nama. The holy name of Krishna, the highest benediction above all other benedictions for humanity, sweeter than sweet honey. Generally, we are after the home. Our home we build, whatever home we build, we think that is honey. Home, sweet home. Money is sweeter than honey. It is like we are after the wealth and we are after the home. But our home is actually go back to Godhead, back to Golokam. That is our real home. So the holy name of Krishna, the highest benediction above all other benedictions for humanity, sweeter than sweet honey, the eternal fruit of transcendental knowledge of the tree of the entire Shruti scriptures. O best of Bhagavatas, if anyone chants Lord Krishna's name just once without offense, whether he chants with faith or indifferently, the holy name immediately liberates him. That is, Nam Abha stage itself will liberate. And when one chants Suddha Nam one time, then he is attaining Krishna Prema one time. But we are not able to chant because we have mode of ignorance, passion, maybe little tinge of goodness. So that's why we have to come to the purification by regularly hearing and following under the direction of the advanced devotee, spiritual master. Then only there is a possibility of any developing any taste for the holy name, any taste for the kirtan. We'll always want to do kirtan at home, whenever we are there, wherever we are there, while driving. Always the kirtan is going on in the heart. That is what real sankirtan means. We have a desire to actually glorify the Lord, not only in the when people are there. So Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur always said, nobody is there also, you should be ready to give class. The speaker must be, first of all, speaker first must relish what he is speaking. He must be inspired first of all himself. Then he can inspire others. If he himself is not inspired and relishing, then it is not really bhakti. You cannot inspire others. So first of all, what we speak, it is for our own purification. It is for our own, because that is what Tushyanticha Ramanticha. When one who is in that state of Madgata Prana, Gurugata Prana, then we will come to that. Then at that time we want to speak, we want to chant, we want to glorify Lord Krishna 24/7. There is no stoppage. That is what real Sankirtan means. Any other desires is not really pure. Sometimes that's a Prabhupada told, stop. Then he called another devotee to sing. Other Prabhupada disciples also, we have examples. And somebody said, oh, it's great Kirtan this Prabhu is doing. So this is Kali Kirtan, this is the Maya Kirtan. Stop, let him sing. That's what we have seen these examples. Because the spiritual master knows, Prabhupada knows what is there. You might be singing nicely, tune and everything, but the inside heart is something else. Your desires are into something else. So that spiritual master will know. So that's why we have to remove these unwanted things in the heart. Then we can actually come to this pure state of consciousness. That's why we should hear from Prabhupada 5 to 10 minutes a day. Read Prabhupada books and hear from Prabhupada lectures also. So that will help us to understand what is reality, what is not reality, who is situated in what mode, what is the real Kirtan means, real transcendental knowledge means. Otherwise, we have the same understanding of everything is same. No, everything is not same. Okay, thank you, Hare Krishna. We'll stop here.